welcome to the Bookering Pod. I'm Katie.
And I'm Tawny.
And it's the end of 2021. We made it. Who knew? It is currently December 29th. We've still got 2 solid days of reading time. So this will not be the December episode.
No.
Because someone still has to read 3 books.
She's gonna do it too. She's gonna do it.
All the doubters last month said, Katie, you can't read 21 books in December. And I said, it
can't be done. And to which you said, of course it can.
Of course it can. So we're not going to recap our December books right now, but we're going to do the first annual Bookering Pod Oscars. Wow. Yay! We're gonna, we have 12 categories of book topics where we've each chosen our contender. We're going to argue about why it is the superlative of that category. And then we're going to put it to a vote on the Instagram. So, Jamie and Megan, it's up to you.
Our 2 listeners.
Or we'll have no engagement on the Instagram story, and that's fine.
Katie and I will both vote, and everything will come out 50-50.
Everything's going to be perfect. But we're really excited to talk about our favorite and least favorite and just other categories of book this episode. Probably be pretty quick, pretty to the point. Tawny, do you have anything else to say before we get started?
I am excited to dive into the awards ceremony.
Yes, okay. Well, now we'll start the opening ceremony musical number. Actually, we couldn't get Neil Patrick Harris for that.
Oh God.
So we'll just
terrible podcast. What are we even doing?
The books that we're talking about aren't necessarily books that came out in 2021, but books that Tawny and I read in 2021. So that's just a clarification for you. Okay, so we're going to start with our first category, which is Best New to Me Author. Tawny, would you like to discuss your favorite new author to you?
Yes. Okay, so I will start with, I have 2 honorable mentions. They did not quite make the cut, but they did a great job. Colleen Hoover and S.A. Chakraborty. Hats off to you. You didn't win though, because I selected Casey Mcquiston. So Casey Mcquiston was new to me in 2021. I picked up Red, White, and Royal Blue for the first time this year, as well as One Last Stop, which came out this year. And she is now just an instant buy author for me. I am willing and ready to sign up for anything that she is going to put on paper. She does such a good job creating rom-coms with like an ensemble cast of ragtag misfits who are all lovable and somehow fleshed out real characters. She writes absolutely just swoony queer rom-coms, and there's nothing but good times from Casey. So she is my selection for favorite new to me author.
If I had read Red, White, and Royal Blue this year, she would have also been my favorite new to me author. But instead, I chose Jasmine Guillory, who wrote While We Were Dating and The Wedding Date, series of romance novels about black characters, usually professionals who love to eat. I don't think I gave any of her books 5 stars this year, but I read like 5 of them. So I was really going for like, who did I read a lot this year who was brand new to me, always had a good time, was never let down, and it was Jasmine Guillory. I definitely recommend checking her work out. Like, just really fun, meet cute rom-coms, like really good times. So just definitely check out The Wedding Date if you haven't read it yet. I really enjoyed her work this year. I don't have many honorable mentions because a lot of new to me authors this year, I was let down by a couple of them in the end. So I wanted to go with all hits, no misses from Jasmine Guillory. Next up, we have our author we have beef with. So a newish to us, perhaps, author that we have words that we would like to have with them. I chose Ruby Dixon, who wrote the series The Ice Planet Barbarians. This is the books with the covers, as we like to call them. And it's not that I ever had a bad time with these books. And it's not that I dislike Ruby Dixon in any way. It's just that perhaps 8 of the books I read this year shouldn't have been about giant blue aliens with large penises, perhaps.
Says who? Says who?
Maybe these books shouldn't exist. And perhaps I don't like that they're like 10% of the books I've read this year. Perhaps it's not fun to have my Goodreads updates be very interesting covers for everyone to see. Perhaps Ruby Dixon should be less prolific. I can't believe she's written so many books. It's so many. Ruby, I've had such a good time reading your books, but like, what? Just why? Oh my god. What have you done? What have you done to us? The readers of TikTok, it's just a lot. There are things that I know, there are images I have in my head I shouldn't have, but I do, and it's all because of you. Thanks, Ruby. Tawny.
I do have to say, so I didn't read any Ruby Dixon, but I probably will in 2022. The most recent one that you read, the cover of where it's just the woman and the blue alien torso. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And I don't know why. I don't know why that's the cover for this one, given the content of the book. Also, it was one of my least favorite ones. So that was
okay. So I have a lot of beef with a lot of authors this year. And so I had a short list for this category, and who could it be? Could it be Sarah J. Maas? She was in the running but didn't quite make it. Could it be Tessa Bailey, who consistently pulls me in and disappoints me? It wasn't quite her. Could it be Leigh Bardugo? She knows what she did and she can catch these hands. It wasn't even Jennifer L. Armentrout, who was actually the inspiration for me wanting this category included. But there was a dark horse who entered this race at the 11th hour. And she really came through in glorious fashion. Her name is Cassandra Clare. And Miss Clare, I just want to talk. Do you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about incest.
It's like a normal theme to have in multiple books, just like normal things.
Just carry through, and so, okay, spoiler warning for the Mortal Instruments series, which is a YA fantasy series that came out in 2007. So if you haven't read it, I'm assuming like you won't, but this is where we're at. There is no reason why I should, in the middle of reading one of your books, be Googling whether or not the author has siblings. And yet I am so troubled by the number of times that we are having siblings make out or almost make out in these books. I am haunted. Not only did she develop a romantic relationship for the entire first book, and then at the end of that book, tell us actually they're brother and sister. She then had them try to figure out a way to still make it work. She was like, I was mad when that happened. They had already made out, and then it's like, oh, they're siblings. And I was like, okay, well, that's just going to be the end of that. There's going to be like a new love interest. No. They're still hung up. They are hung up and they're trying to make it work. And then at the end of the third book in this series, she's just like, nah, they're not actually siblings. Don't worry about it. But you know who is her brother? This other guy that she just made out with. This other guy. But
it feels wrong. But Tawny, it feels wrong.
That one felt wrong. So it's fine. Like, what? And then she just couldn't resist in the next series to have a girl disguised as someone else almost make out with her own brother. It didn't actually happen, but she was gonna do it. And Cassie, I've got to say, get help. Get help. please. Cassandra Clare, we have beef. That's my pick.
I'm so glad that I made you read the series. And I really made you persevere. We'll talk about this more in the next episode, but
yes,
it was really close there about Tawny not continuing the series.
It was quite a time. We're gonna have a whole episode about these two series that I read. We're gonna have a feels like the first time whole thing about it. So
yes.
more to come.
Don't you worry. Cassandra Clare, Tawny didn't know who you were, and now
I do. I know too much, girl. I know too much.
A single child that we do know. Great, thank you, Tawny. Next, we would like to honor a minority group for us. Sorry, this is a bad joke. We really care about diversity and inclusion on the Bookering Pod. And we'd like to honor the men who we barely read any work by them ever. Like, barely. Like, we're so sorry. But we want to make sure that you're noted. We know representation matters. For all the little boys out there who listen to our podcast, that they know that men can write books. So our next category is Best Book by a Man. I would bet so much money that this is going to be the same book. So I'm
absolutely is. I know it in myself.
I don't have an honorable mention. It's Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir.
Yeah, it is the winner.
Good job. We've talked at length about how much we love this book. So you can go back and listen to that podcast. But this is just like a really wonderful science fiction book that's like near future, close to reality science fiction, about a man who encounters alien species, both trying to save their respective species, and learning each other's languages and cultures and working together to save their friends and families and worlds. And it's just a beautiful time. Highly recommend. Andy Weir did a good job. Congrats, Andy Weir. You're the best.
Andy Weir,
man.
The best one. He's the best one.
The best man. So
there was nothing else even in the running.
No, I this was not a contest for me.
Okay, because I do want to say, like, not only is this the best book by a man, this is one of the best books I read this year.
Oh, yes.
So I like, and maybe ever, like it's up there.
One of my favorites of the year.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites of the genre. Had a great time, amazing time. Andy, you really outdone yourself. No man came close. So that was yeah. Tawny, would you like to introduce the next category?
I would love to. Okay, so, and this one, I think by the nature of what it is, there will be spoilers contained within, because we would like to honor the worst plot twist that we read this year. And I would like to give this award to a book that we've both already yelled about quite a bit. And that is The Wives by Taryn Fisher. If you've heard our other episode where we read each other's like least favorite books, we yelled extensively about it. This is a woman who thinks she's in a polygamous marriage, but really the plot twist is that it's a delusion. It was all made up. None of it happened. It is dumb. It's insulting. It's lazy. I'm offended. And yeah, I do want to give an honorable mention to the Mortal Instruments series, which was a contender with, both sibling reveals. The one in the first book and the one in the third book. It came very close, but I think Taryn Fisher really, really brought this one home with the worst that could be done. Katie, would you like to give us your selection?
Yes, I would. So actually, we'll not talk about this in depth because Tawny has not read this book yet. My award goes to Survive the Night by Rayleigh Sager. It is about a girl being driven across the country by a serial killer on a road trip home, and it's heavily influenced by film noir and detective movies. And Yeah, I didn't like the ending, so I'm not going to tell Tawny what it is, but I have problems with it fundamentally. So I would like to congratulate Riley Sager on having a bad plot twist. So
this is one that I think that I will read because I think that we're gonna want to talk about it together.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we will.
So eventually I will read this.
Yeah, no, I was a big well, that was dumb moment for me. So yep, that is my thoughts on that. Next up I have book that made us cry most. So I would like to nominate One Last Stop by Casey Mcquiston. This is a lovely lesbian rom-com / mystery / ghost story. Highly recommend. You gotta read it. I sobbed like 3 times in the last 50 pages, pretty much. Just really beautiful love story and friendship and found family vibes. Really beautiful portrayal of New York City. Had an amazing time. Cried a lot. I cried a lot in several books this year, including Project Hail Mary, which we've already talked about. And but One Last Stop is probably my number one most tears. Tawny, what how about you?
Okay, so I want to apologize in advance because I was not planning on giving multiple awards to one book, but I just couldn't do it. I had a list and I just couldn't give it to anyone else. So, like, honorable mention to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. One Last Stop also made me cry a ton. Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, and then Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare all made me cry. But nothing can top my sobs reading Project Hail Mary. I cannot explain without spoiling, but I just want to say that this book features just the most beautiful friendship of all time. The most beautiful, just like I sobbed for like the whole last like third of this book. It's so good. It's so good. I've never been more concerned for a character in peril. Andy Weir cleaning up at the Bookering Awards.
Andy Weir cleaning up indeed. You know, I cried so much during that one.
Yeah, this book was a contender for multiple categories for me. And I just couldn't find a way to not.
If only there were better men.
If only that would be nice. That would be great.
It's more of if only Katie and Tawny read books by men.
Exactly.
That's what high school was for, you know.
That is absolutely what, and honestly, kind of college. So here we are.
Would you like to do the next category, Tawny?
Yes. Okay, so our next category, we are awarding the most stressful book. We like to be stressed, apparently. And so I have 2 honorable mentions, which Project Hail Mary and also 6 of Crows. But the most stressful book for me was Ace of Spades. This is we've talked about this twice on the podcast now, so you guys know sort of what it's about. Just the only 2 Black students at this prestigious private school, and they're sort of being targeted by an anonymous person. And like specifically, I have vivid memories of this moment where things really go south for one of our main characters, Devon, with his music teacher. And I've maybe never been more stressed reading a book than in that moment. Like I had to step away from it because I was like, oh my God, what? Like it, yeah. So I would like to give this to Ace of Spades for stressing me out. Katie, what is your selection?
So my honorable mentions include Ace of Spades, but also Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier, which I read this month. So I'll be talking about that more in our next episode. But my most stressful book of the year was As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, the 3rd book in a Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I've never been so stressed out and upset about a character's journey. I really just wanted everyone to be okay. It just didn't seem like that was going to happen. There was a lot to handle. It's about It's the third book in a series about a young teenage high school detective. It's the last book, and all of like her actions, her detective work catches up with her. She has to face the consequences of her actions. Very stressful, very compelling. I love it was done like that, and it wasn't just like, wow, perky high school detective does cute detective things. I was like, no, solving murder and making enemies has consequences. Who knew? So really, really well done. Very stressful. Had honestly a bad time, even though it was really good.
I agree. I actually neglected to put that in my honorable mentions, but it should be there. I was also quite stressed reading.
Our next category is a tough one because it was my main genre of the year. We have the best romance novel. I had a lot of contenders, so even my honorable mentions were kind of tough to narrow down on. So just really quickly, honorable mentions: The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, Heartstopper, which is a graphic novel series I read this month by Ellis Osman, and then People We Met on Vacation by Emily Henry are all my honorable mentions. I've talked about Kiss Quotient and People We Met on Vacation before. But my number one romance novel, the one that I love the couple the most and I think about the most, is The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, about two public radio employees having to do fake dating relationship who fall in love eventually. There's a cute dog, and it's so good. What a good time.
So good. Funny, that's also my pick. I honorable mentions for One Last Stop by Casey Mcquiston, The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood, and also Lovely War, which I just read this month and we'll talk about on our December pod. I just wanted to throw that in there as an honorable mention, but The X Talk is the one that stayed with me the most too. And I feel like it's something that was maybe written specifically for us. It was so good. I loved the couple. I loved the love interest. I loved the story, the tension, all of it. It was perfect. It was perfect. So congratulations to Rachel and Solomon on an award-winning book at the Bookering Awards. Okay, so our next award is best spicy romance, because there is a distinction, there is a distinction between best romance and best spicy romance. So I don't have any honorable mentions for this category. This is one of two categories where I knew exactly what the winner was immediately as we said it, and it is The Roommate by Rosie Dannon. We've not actually talked about this on the pod, but this is uptight, good girl, socialite Clara, who moves in with a porn star, and the book it's a perfect rom-com with perfect sex scenes, like maybe the best sex scenes I've ever read, which is bold. I've read a lot since this, but like this one has really stayed with me. And it stands out as the best one. It's not overly gratuitous. It's not over the top. The tension builds so well. The scenes escalate so well. It's perfect. 5 stars. The Roommate.
If I had simply read that in 2021, that would also be my no question. So it is currently still my favorite spicy romance. It is among my favorite romance novels too. It's so good, very memorable, great time. Highly recommend if you've not read it already. So this year I read my fair share of spicy romances. None of them quite meeting the grandeur that is The Roommate. But I do want to shout out The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood, which we discussed, which takes a while to get there, but it gets there. And just shout out to the entire Ice Planet Barbarians series. No book is quite good enough for it to actually win this award. But yeah, when the most of the book is the spicy scene, then sure, yes, you can be an honorable mention. But I do want to say It Happened One Summer, by Tessa Bailey, is my favorite Tessa Bailey book so far, and had a very good dynamic of the two characters, good scenes, good tension between the characters, and I did really, really enjoy it. We've talked about it several times on the podcast. I'm actually not going to do a plot summary of it, but yes, very good time. All in all, favorite spicy romance of the year.
Yeah, if I were to have an honorable mention, that would be it for me in this category. But as you know, the roommate ran away with it.
Yeah. Next is my other genre, and that's the best mystery thriller that we've read in 2021. My honorable mention is Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. This was about the hairstylist rich mother who loses her child and then goes through finding out her husband is having an affair and hires someone to murder the mistress. And it's just a very well plotted, very well done mystery thriller. Very good time. Highly recommend you check it out. But my number one for me, which might be in a different category too, we'll see, I still haven't decided, is Verity by Colleen Hoover, one of my favorite books of the year. Just author hired by the husband of a recently injured best-selling author to finish out the series, discover secrets, and go undergoing the manuscripts. And it's just like very spooky and creepy and sexy, high tension. You don't know what's going to happen. I promise. In most mystery thrillers, I know what's going to happen. I figure it out at least right before it happens. Nope. didn't get this one. Did not get this one. But it still made sense. And I just loved it so much. So yes, Verity by Colleen Hoover for best mystery thriller of the year.
Verity is one of my honorable mentions in this category. And it actually is probably technically better than my winner. My other honorable mention is actually Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I did not remember that I read this year. I thought that was last year, but that was this year. And so my winner is In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife. I did talk about this on the pod. This is just the most fun mystery thriller. I feel like Verity was the most unsettling mystery thriller. Like it was so impactful and I couldn't stop thinking about it. But this was just like a blast. This was quick. This was snappy. This was dramatic and over the top. We follow a group of friends at their college reunion. One of the group was murdered at the end of their senior year. And then now one of them might be the killer. So this is not like exquisite literature or anything like that. But it's so dramatic. It's so fun. I love an ensemble cast. I love a whodunit. I love the structure of the dual timelines and the flashbacks that we get. I love there's like a really extremely messed up romance that I was very into. This was so much fun for me. So this is my pick.
I'm so excited to eventually read it. I still haven't picked it up yet, but that will be great. Next, for actual diversity representation, not a joke, we have our best BIPOC, so Black Indigenous Person of Color read this year. This is actually a tough category for me because I did better than I thought diversity-wise this year. I thought I did much worse than I actually did, but I am actually picking my winner right now because I'm staring at three before me, and I'm gonna go with Ace of Spades as my favorite. But really tough call between that and my honorable mention, Legendborn by Tracy Dannon, and then also While We Were Dating by Jasmine Guillory. Ace of Spades just had the really high tension thriller aspect and it's the one that I'm still thinking about. I still think about a lot of the implications from that book, and also I think about like the art of writing more with that book, and like thinking about like the ending, and like how we've talked a lot about how I was not completely satisfied with the ending, and it's made me think about more like both like the issues it brings out about race and institutionalized racism, but also just like the craft of writing and everything like that. And I had a really good time reading it. It went by so fast, and I just had an amazing time. And it's definitely a book that only a person of that like community could have written. So Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades is an honorable mention for me. It was really up there, along with a book I read much earlier in the year, Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Booley. This is the only book I read this year by an Indigenous author. And it's a YA mystery thriller. And I just want to make sure that I shout it out because it's very good. And I read it before we started airing episodes of the pod. So highly recommend that. But my winner for this is actually Legend Born by Tracy Deonn. This is, I think, like maybe one of my top 5 books of the year. Like this is not only just like such a fun, well-crafted, like Arthurian based YA fantasy, but it handles race and our main character's Blackness so well. There are she is once again just like a Black girl in a traditionally white racist institution, and so just the microaggressions that we're experiencing are so infuriating. It's so frustrating to read. And just like the cultural roots of the character and sort of the abilities that she's unearthing in herself, or it's just like really beautiful and enlightening. Really loved that. 5 stars. So
no, I love Legend Born so much, and if it wasn't for the cliffhanger, maybe one.
Yeah. Okay, so our next category is just, it's gonna be a big one. We're finally at worst overall book of the year, and there could be no other. There could be no other than Fairy Godmothers Inc. by Sarana DeWild. This is one of the worst books I've ever read in my whole life. I don't even know how this got published. The writing, terrible. The characters, flat, no chemistry, idiots. The plot, dumb, incomprehensible. This is the worst book. It is the worst book. Katie, what's your selection?
It is a bad book. It is bad, but you know what I did appreciate about it? I understood what was happening. I understood motivations of the characters, at least. It made sense logically. Do you know what didn't? It was Foxhole Court by Nora Sakovic, which I read this month, so I haven't gotten to talk about it at length yet, but it is about a troubled boy joining a Exie League at a college, which is a fictional sport that is the cross between hockey and lacrosse, I suppose. And it is a college that specifically recruits children with juvenile delinquent pasts and family troubles. And everyone is doing drugs, and there is the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, and nothing makes sense, and it's dumb, and it has like a 4 stars average on Goodreads, and I don't understand what's happening. It's like extremely popular on Book Talk, and I was like, oh yeah, let me check this out. I hear so many good things, but it was like I don't understand at all. Like nothing makes sense. I have no words. It was like so short, and it took me so long to get through it because I was like, I don't understand what's happening at all. Why is any character doing any of these things? Also, that's not how those drugs work, actually. That's not what antipsychotic medication does. Anyways, Foxhole Court, what a bad time. But also, so many people love it, and I'm like, am I wrong? I don't know. Honorable mention to Dare Me by Megan Abbott.
Oh my god, I'm so excited to talk to you more about this terrible book. Wow, okay.
It was so confused. It has such a high Goodreads average. It has a 4.04 Goodreads average.
I've never heard of this book before, ever. Like, I saw it on your Goodreads like activity, but I had no idea what it was.
I gave it 2 stars. I don't know. I just was like, I felt bad giving it 1 star. Was it? I was just like, I can't do that actually. But it was bad. So Foxhole Court. I'm sorry, Nora Sakovic. Also, everyone who loves this book, which is so many people. Anyway, but yes, Fairy Godmothers Inc. and Dare Me were both honorable mentions. Now it's time for the big award, the biggest one, best overall book. This is an impossible decision that I keep switching. So I'm gonna start with my honorable mentions with Who is Maud Dixon by, I didn't write down the author. Who is Maud Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. So it's a debut novel about a woman who is hired as an assistant for a mysterious author named Maud Dixon, and hijinks ensue, and it's a great time. I had a great time with this novel. There is also honorable mention Project Hail Mary, which we've already talked about. But I think my favorite book I read this year was Verity by Colleen Hoover. It is just everything that I love in a book rolled into one. It's a mystery thriller. It's a romance. It has a plot twist. It's unsettling. It made me think about things for like a really long time. I just love it so much. I think of any book I read this year, this is the one that I would be most likely to recommend to someone else. So yes, Verity by Colleen Hoover, but Project Hail Mary is a very, very close second for me.
Okay. I also have honorable mention Project Hail Mary. I really, really considered that this was probably the best one. But I didn't give it to them. I also want to give an honorable mention to the Six of Crows duology. This is one that was just like, it was very fun. I gave it 5 stars at the time, and it's one that I still actively think about and I want to reread because it's fun but also, you know, tragic and stressful and all of the things. And I wanted to give this duology an award somewhere, but it just didn't quite fit with anything that we had. And so I want to shout it out here for being great. And my actual pick for this category is the Devabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. So this is The City of Brass, Kingdom of Copper, and Empire of Gold. And basically, this series just felt like such an achievement, such a masterpiece. It's so expansive, it's so ambitious, it's so well balanced. The character development is so beautiful and it's so satisfying. The characters are so complex, and it's, oh gosh, it's so good. I gave each of these 3 books 5 stars, and I was doubtful each time I picked up the next installment in the series that I was like, there's no way she's gonna sustain this. There's no way she's gonna stick the landing. There's too much going on. And then she did it. Somehow she did. And this is another one that I think about all the time. I think I read this like in June or July or something, and I just think about it all the time because it was so good. It was such a well-developed world. It was such, I think that this is both technically the best, but I also enjoyed this probably the most. So yes, that is my pick for best overall. It's cheating to pick a trilogy, but that's what I've done. I'm a cheater.
I will be purchasing this now because
oh wow, okay.
I haven't read it yet. I haven't even put it on my Libby holds, but I'm just gonna buy it. So yeah.
They're very pretty books. So it's, you know, it's fun to
so now I feel bad because I got Tawny for Christmas, a very beautiful edition of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue with like the pages like with stars on it. There was an option to get the Devabad trilogy in that style.
But I love Addie LaRue too. And it's so pretty. It's the prettiest book I own now. And this is a book that I think I will reread. I will probably reread Addie LaRue. Yes. Like it was so good. And honestly, I think that it would have been more a contender in some of these if I had not read it in January. It was like the 3rd book I read.
It was so long ago. Yeah. So
and now I've read 160 books since I read that one. And
it's horrifying. Oh my god.
It's really horrifying. It's really upsetting to say out loud. And so it's suffering from that, but it's such a good book.
Oh my goodness. Tawny, we did our awards.
We did it.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'd like to thank the Academy. We're
the Academy.
But we had such a good year of reading. All of these categories, except for a couple of them, were very hard to pin down, and it's just because we read so much and we read so many good books this year, and it's because we started this podcast, which is one of the best things of 2021. So, best podcast of 2021 goes to Bookering Pod.
Yep. No votes necessary. We've awarded ourselves.
We award ourselves.
We humbly accept.
It's one of the best things I've done in 2021. So thank you.
My favorite thing that I've done in 2021. This is the best part of each month.
It's the best part. I love nothing more. And like, I will have read nearly twice as much this year as I read last year. And it's because of this podcast. And I also got way more out of reading this much this year because of this podcast, because I actually have someone to talk about the books with, and I get more recommendations, and it's just the best. It's the best time. So
It really is.
yes. Well, thank you for listening, and we hope that you pick up some of these superlatives, the good ones, not the bad ones. Don't pick up the bad ones. Don't do it.
Don't do it. We mean it. When we say don't read it, don't read it.
Don't read it. We only want each other to suffer. And
yeah, not you. Not you. Jamie and Megan.
Don't read the bad books.
Mr. and Mrs. Zellner as well. Those are our 4
Please
listeners.
don't. But yes, thank you so much for listening. We're the Bookering Pod, and you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Bookering Pod. I'm Katie Zellner, and you can find me on Instagram at @CatZellnerd and on Goodreads at @CatZellner. Tawny, where can people find you?
You can find me at Tawny Waterman on Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads. Yeah, I don't know why I structured that like I was going to say more. That was the whole sentence. I could have. Those are all the ones. Those are all the ones. Thank you all for listening. And
Thank you so much.
Yes.